about, just let me know now and we won't bring it up.
I'm an open book. I don't care. Okay. So we're good. Anything.
Awesome.
I guess too high.
All set to record? All right. All right. This is Chance Davis with the Choke Point. Special guest, somebody that I just recently got in touch with and thought would be a awesome addition to the podcast. So thank you for coming on. If you want to just do a brief introduction, kind of who you are and your background.
Okay. Well, I'm Kat. That's who everybody knows me by. I just got out last July, and I was in the Army and the Guard for 10 years. I deployed to Iraq in 2007 with a transportation unit out in Nevada, and then came home, got into recruiting and retention back in Nevada. Then I did the cultural support team deployment 2011-2012, and got out after that because I think I left my career with a bang doing that. So right now I'm just raising my daughters and I'm going to school to be a paramedic.
Nice.
So
you enjoyed your time with the cultural support teams?
So I was CSC2, and we were to begin with, it was just a pilot program where they asked a bunch of chicks to come and do this. They really didn't have like a setup, like a school or training wise. Originally they just picked a bunch of girls from Fort Hood, and they went over there and completely fell on their faces. And then, so they like to call CSC2 pretty much CSC1. So originally it was like, we didn't really have a good rap from the first group, but the girls that I went over there with, because I was a part of the team that went to, we were in support of the Rangers in SEAL teams and a couple Delta squadrons. So there was only 20 of us that, out of I think it was like 60 out of the finalization of the class that got to go with the Rangers. And then we were split into teams of 2 all over Afghanistan to go and support you guys. So it changed my life. I'm a completely different person because of it. And I really wish that a lot of the girls had the same experience that I did. I know once the war started dying down, it was just like, going over there and working out and maybe going on like 5 to 10 missions, depending on where you're at. So for me, it was a really great experience. I know a lot of the girls, like all of us coming back, there was maybe 13 of us, because some of them got injured. Ashley White, which I'm sure you're familiar with, she got killed over there. So 13 of us came home, and we're still all super tight, and we're completely in awe of the guys that we got to work with, and we're so, like, I don't know if you've read Ashley's War or have even, I'm sure you worked with CSCs when you were in or whatnot, but for me, like, I have never worked with a better group of people, and I'm not just saying that just because I know, like, a lot of the guys on here are Rangers, and you really, just the group of people, the individuals. I mean, when we first got, like, this is stupid, but when we first got into the CSC, when we first went to the school at JFK, they told us, they're like, hey, those guys hate your guts. Their wives hate your guts. They think you think that you're just going in there to thump your chest and you guys are all tough shit and whatever. So originally I was like, oh shit, like we're going to go in there and these guys are just going to be like, yeah, you guys are worthless, So initially there was that sense of fear, especially since we didn't none of us, I mean, there was a few of us that had worked with special operations, but I was like the small town farm kid that, you know, one of my recruiter buddies was like, hey, Kat, like, this would be a really cool thing to do. And I'm like, yeah, I mean, I'll try. You know, all I can do is try. So when I got over there, well, backtrack. So when we got split, the Special Forces and the Ranger girls, we got split to go do our training, pre-training. We got a week with some Rangers out up at Bragg. And the funniest thing is, like, we got off the bus and the truck was behind with all of our gear, and we had like probably 5 or 6 duffel bags apiece, and there's 20 of us. And, you know, originally we're like, we're gonna get there and they're just gonna eat us alive. And like right when we get there, like there's like 5 or 6 dudes or Rangers that were there, and they started unloading our shit. And I was like, what the hell? I mean, that was my first impression. I was like, why are they like, they don't like us, you know? Like we have been just pounded in our heads, like, you guys, they don't want you there, so you just need to stick together and don't even worry about their shit. But these guys were like, they were down to earth, they were real, these guys have seen more shit than anybody I've ever met in my life. And it's not so much about going out there and like doing the mission, but just the type of people, the personality. And it's like, that was like the best first impression. They're like, hey, you know, it's not a matter of who you are, it's we're a team. And yeah, you know, you're constantly proving yourself, but we got to that point and they expect us, like, this is our job, you should be good at it. You got here because of who you are and how good you are. So for me, it was like, you know, throughout the whole process and the deployment and everything, they kept telling us, like, you know, CST is like, they're trying to make it more like TPT, where we're going to TFT with you guys and like doing the train up and all that with you guys. But when we got to Bath, we had to sit down with General Votel, and he pretty much just was like, hey, high five, thank you for your service, peace out. You know what I mean? And it, like, we had been told from just other special operations units or whatever that, hey, they're gonna, like, this is something that you can grow with. So when Votel was just like, no, like, you did, you're good, and, you know, the Afghanistan, the war's dying down, and we really don't need your capability anymore. So he said there might be another few rotations because everything's starting to slow down, but pretty much just way to go, girls. You know what I mean? And, you know, for me, that was like, it was kind of an eye-opener. I mean, it was especially an eye-opener with when Ashley died. And I deployed as a single parent, and my daughter was at home. So it kind of put in perspective, like, I did my job. I served my country, but my major priority has to be her now. So, I know we get a ton of shit, like, a ton of shit from everybody, just like, oh, you know, you go out there and you guys think you're so cool and you're high speed or whatever. And it's not like, we don't think we're Rangers. None of us have Ranger tabs. We didn't go out there thinking that we were, like, you know, tough shit. For our group, out of CST2, and I can only speak on CST2, all of the platoons that we worked with, like, I worked with all 3 platoons. I worked with the Delta Squadron, and we were just like one of the guys, you know. We were like little sister out there, and they took care of us because we could perform, you know what I mean? Because we went out there, we did our job, and we did it correctly. And it's not, it wasn't so much of like, oh, I'm tough shit. No, we're just normal people like everyone else out there. And for me, it was like, I didn't want to go back to, like, my career was not, I wish, just for the sake of it, that I could have joined, like, I wish I was a guy at the time so I could join Ranger Regiment and, like, live your guys' like traditions and camaraderie and all that, because my career was just garbage. But up until then, like, that was the highlight of my life, and I knew that that's where I wanted to end it. So I got back and I went into the reserves, back in the reserves in the IRR, and I was like, I I have fulfilled that part of my life because of the people that I met. So I know like I said, I'm not blowing smoke up anyone's ass, but seriously, like that deployment and working with the Rangers has completely changed my life. So, and I wouldn't change it for the world. I mean, it was probably the best point in my life, if not in my career. So, yeah, I don't want to get all mushy about it, but yeah.
I mean, that's one thing I enjoyed about Ranger Regiment was the leadership and professionalism. Coming in and going through NDOC, I didn't really care what the guy next to me looked like. Did he shave his arms? Was he purple? Was he yellow? How well was he with his job? And so what exactly for the audience is the role of CST?
Okay, so CST was created. It actually started back in 2000. I think the original idea was from 2009, and they got it was like an aha moment from the higher ups being like, like Afghanistan is pretty culturally sensitive. Like maybe we shouldn't have our dudes frisking up their ladies and trying to find stuff. So they decided to open up this position or create this position for women that were physically fit that could hang with the Rangers and Special Forces teams. And our entire mission was to search the women and children, pretty much to maintain them in a specific part and question so that we can hit the other 50% of the population. So, and it really worked out. Like all the information that we got, like whether it be finding things on target or just, I wouldn't say interrogations because we weren't doing that, but just talking and communicating with these people and then coming back and linking up with the rest of the platoon, and like information matched. And the JP rate skyrocketed once we went out there, because it's like, if you have a woman out there, and I know their culture is they stand behind the male authority figure, but if that guy's beating the shit out of her, she will dime him out in a second. And we had one time that one platoon brought this guy right into the room and was like, hey, this guy says he's so-and-so, and the lady's like, no, that's who you're looking for, blah, 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 in their language or whatever. And it just made the process and the mission so much faster. But back to your point, it was just, we were enablers to the Ranger platoons and taking care of the women and children and searching and questioning them. So it was a cultural sensitivity issue that our higher ups and cars I had. So it kind of put a Band-Aid on that and said, well, hey, we're not disrespecting your culture because we have women out there too. So, and it did. And I had a lot of different missions where if we weren't there, then they couldn't have found the platoons couldn't have found what they needed. So I look at it as in different wars, especially like in the Middle East, our position is vital. So just for mission success, but as an enabler, it worked out good. It worked out well. So,
but. The professionalism, and I guess you could say you catch more flies with honey than vinegar. Like my experience with working with CST, because prior to CST, it was the medics who did primarily that role of engaging with the females and the children and potentially extracting information, finding cached weapons, liabilities to the platoon during the rest of the operation. That was the role of the medic. And if the medic was busy, I remember one of the guys in my platoon is like this huge 230-pound meat eater, and he runs up to this female. He's like, "Oh, it's okay. I'm a doctor." And it's like, oh no. And so we were able, like you said, to have more mission success in those cultural sensitive, keeping in line with with their customs and culture. So having CST, I definitely can concur and say that we saw more mission success with you guys as an asset.
Well, and you guys could pay attention to what you needed to pay attention to, you know? And it's like, I mean, I definitely can understand having the medic out there, but there were more than half the missions the medic needed to be used where the medic needed to be used. And it's, you guys don't have time for that. So I think, having that one position with someone who could actually do it, and not just the physicality of it, but for me, especially being a mother, like going out there and being with the children and the women and stuff, they're more apt to be comfortable with you if you can say, hey, like I have kids too, and I'm not here to, I don't look scary. I mean, I'm 5'10", and when I deployed, I was probably 20 pounds heavier than I am now, just from beefing up to go out there. And like, I looked like a dude. Like, I was scary. You look at somebody under nods and you're like, you don't know, you don't know where CSC is because she looks just like one of the guys. And especially at night, like, these women are terrified. So, once everything's like safe and secure and everything's good, like, getting in there, the initial reaction is I'm lying to them, but a lot of times, which luckily I don't have tuberculosis, but I would have to have like the women come and touch my face, and I take my hair out, and I mean we got dolled up to go out on these things so that you see those women out there, they're covered in their black eyeliner and everything, and for me it was like I had to put my face on and everything and put some smelly stuff so that they really believed that I was a woman. And once we got like actually into the compound in a room, like I took the helmet off, donned the scarf, and they're like, yeah, she's huge, but she is a woman. So it definitely helped with like becoming comfortable, because the difference between with like special forces and rangers, it's like special forces get to have like, they get to go out there and have tea, and they get to go back the next day, and they're gonna have like, you get to build this relationship. But for us, it was like we just came in, there's a ton of scary ass dudes out there that they don't know what the hell's going on, telling them to come outside, in the middle of the night. And it's like, and if they don't, then shit's gonna happen. And we had to go in there, create this bond with these people after we're done filling them up like in areas they don't want to be touched, and we don't want to touch them, but we have to. And then sit them down and actually like get really personal information from them. And it's, you're doing that, you have like TQ wise, like you're lucky if you get maybe an hour or so, because not only that, you have APU running in, and then TPT, like, this CST, you need this CST, and I like that alone was the most irritating thing. But coming in and then getting everything you need, and then we're ultimately just leaving these children and these women there by themselves. So to give them a better feel for Americans, like we would sit down and play with their kids. Like my tactical, like how we get to put our kid up however we want. Like I had like Cliff Bars and candy and, all of like toys. I mean, I think I carried an extra 10 pounds just of crap so that I could leave it there with them so that they would have a better feel for Americans, and that we're there to actually help them and get these shitheads out of their house, or, just off the battlefield, which unfortunately a lot of them just got a shower and then sent right back out. But, yeah, I think just that side of the population, even though if they heard the helicopters coming in, they weren't as scared because they knew, like, hey, they're not coming for me, and they're going to come here and actually, like, hear what I have to say. So for me, that was, like, I always wanted to leave that lasting impression that thanks for, your hospitality. Because a lot of times, like, they would make us tea, and they would feed us things, and you don't want to be rude, but I would save it for later, but not. But, it's, it was so much more than just getting information, especially, and I think for having that designated person to go and do that, you know, you're not pulling from all these different guys from the platoon that they don't, like the medic, you don't have time to go in there and play tea party with these people, you know, like you have stuff that you have to do. So, you know, you get in there, you build this relationship, and then you have to leave in like a 5 hour, hopefully 5 hour time span, and you never see them again. So for us, it was a little guess and check on the first couple missions, but once you got the hang of it, it flowed well. So just a difference between what Special Forces and the Rangers, us as enablers did, because we were not out there for a long period of time. It was, you know, in and out. So
I feel like with special operations, you get a very clear picture of the Afghan people after being deployed for a while. Do you feel like you had a much different view of the Afghan people after having deployed with special operations?
oh yeah, like when I deployed. So when I deployed back in 2007 in Iraq, like I did convoy security, and I was in a HETS platoon. We were the heavy equipment towing system. So I was just like this little private driving this huge ass truck out to like all these engineer infantry FOBs. And even from that side, like they were so much more involved with the people. Like us, we just saw them regularly or whatever. But and then you get hearsay on what the culture's like. But working with special operations, like, I mean, I didn't. I guess I kind of went into it blinded. I really didn't look into like, you know, who these people are or what like ranger platoons or special forces. I remember when I was doing my medical stuff before heading out, and I had this colonel come up to me, and he's like, "Oh, I heard you're gonna deploy with special forces," and I'm like, "Yeah, I guess," you know. And he's like, "Oh, I tried out for special forces," and he's like, and he didn't make it, but he acted like he was just like, this is the like he was just such a badass because he went to SFAS or he tried to go into regiment, but he just, you know, they just thumped their chest just because, like, I had a first sergeant that failed out of it too, and he was just this piece of garbage. He was just a piece of garbage, and he was just like, better watch out for those guys over there, you know, they're gonna eat you alive. And it's like, first off, now looking back, hindsight, how the hell do you know because you didn't make it? And two, don't try to like toot your own horn because you wanted to go try out for it. It's like, what is that whole thing, you know, these guys that are, if you have a ranger tab, you're a ranger, which is not the case. Like, you are a ranger if you are in regiment. And I mean, me even saying that, I'm probably gonna get a lot of shit for it, but it is the truth. Like, guy before I went, and he had a ranger tab, and he was in this cab unit, and we deployed at the same time, and I mean, everybody just thought he was the shit because he had a ranger tab. Like, oh, you have a ranger tab, you have a ranger tab. Never was in regiment. Never even went on like direct action missions. Nothing. So when we were over there, like and I had this like mindset just from their perspective, like even trying out to be in these special forces units is like oh, you're so cool, you know, like, oh, you know, that's awesome. But then when I actually met like rangers, and well, just for me it was just rangers, I'm like, these guys are nothing like them. They don't thump their chest. They're like down to earth, good, like homeboys, you know, like they're decent human beings, and they don't have anything to prove. And I remember telling him, that douchebag, I was like, what's really funny is like, you're running convoys, like protecting the colonel or, you know, doing whatever you have to do. And I'm actually going out on missions with rangers. So it's like, we actually pretty much just switched roles, and your tab really doesn't mean shit. And he had a fit. He had a really, needless to say, we did break up because he's a little butthurt about it. But, yeah, so working with special operations, it was like, you know, pounded in our heads prior, like, these guys are just like, they're going to eat you alive, and they're scary, and they don't want, it was just, you had the guys that wanted to be the guys that were in there, and then the guys that were actually in there were just, like, completely so humbled, and just, seriously, you guys do not understand how incredible you really are to deploy, like, like Sergeant Domingue, who deployed like 14 times. Like, are you kidding me? Like, you guys, like, you GWOT guys deployed 10 to 14 times. Like, a lot of, they let, normal people or whatever, it's like, oh, they only deploy for like 4 months. I'm like, but do you understand that they deploy 4 months, get their asses handed to them, and then come home and are gone all the time anyways, and you guys are back on the freaking bird, headed back over there to God knows, doing what? I'm like, that's 14 times. That's insane. Like, I was there for 8 months, and I was just like, I don't think I don't want to come back here so soon. So
I remember a bunch of guys always joking because deployments, even though you're doing 3 and 4 missions a night, it still felt like vacation, because as soon as you come back home, just that training rotation. So.
Right. Yeah. No, like, now I'm on the spouse side of it, and I can see how hard it is for spouses, and you guys too, because it's like, that's your life, and that's what you get used to, and it's hard to put dad hat or husband hat on when you get home, because you can't. You're right back out there doing, you have like, what, a week to just kind of calm down, and then you're right back out going to Alaska or California, doing out in friggin'
seizures.
Yeah, just all the time, and it's like, you don't get a break. And now, even though the war has died down, but it's a different, your mentality is, you don't want to lose that mentality, even though it's quiet, sometimes, you still don't want to get complacent, because who knows, look at what's happening with ISIS and Syria and all that crap. So, no, I don't, working with you guys, like, I understand, but I still don't completely understand. And people that like to say, like, the regular army, like, they don't have a clue. Like, they do not have a clue. Even if you went to Ranger School, which I have never been, but I worked with a bunch of guys that have, and it is hard shit. It's miserable. If you can put up with the suck, good on you. But, you will never ever understand just the type of lifestyle and the type of people, and it's so incredible because of how you guys actually are, even despite your work schedule. You disappeared on me. I can't hear you at all. Oh, there you are. Okay.
Sweet.
Yeah,
I lucked out because I went to Ranger School early, and got to see the different types between the private that had spent 2 years in battalion, hadn't went to Ranger School, and was like this war-hardened man, and then you had like these schoolhouse soldiers that had never really deployed, like seeing that difference. But
I think too, like with us, because the girls that got selected to go over there, like most of them that got selected were in combat, had deployments, combat experience, and were, I think our youngest was an E5, but NCOs up, mostly NCOs up to captain. So, you didn't have the privates or, the smaller, non-experienced females out there that had went over there with you guys. But you could definitely tell the difference between someone who has a tab, though, and somebody who does not. So, that's interesting in itself. But
so, what do you think about
I knew it was going to come up.
females in Ranger School?
Okay, one, and it's not so much a rehearsal, but my personal opinion. Now, if you can, for Ranger School, now this is not Regiment, and I repeat, this is not in Regiment, but for Ranger School, yeah, if you can put up with the suck, and you carry your weight, and you pass patrols, and you do what you're supposed to, and you're not pushed through, go for it. Seriously, like, if you can do it, then do it, but don't go in there like thinking just because you were your top volleyball, track star, whatever, that you can hang and do this stuff, because it's not so much just about like being able to your physical prowess, but it's about, you know, your mental stamina and mostly being a part of a team. But so if you can put up with some suck for, well, originally the 60 something days, then yeah, absolutely, like go for it. Go get your Ranger tab. I understand the tradition, but you know, the times are changing, and well, the times have changed, and women are going to be going. So I can't say whether or not I agree or disagree with it because it's already changed. But in my perspective, I have 3 daughters, and my husband is a Ranger. I couldn't be with anybody else, you know, and I deployed with Rangers. So the probability of one of my daughters most likely wanting to go to Ranger school or joining the Army is high. And for me, my biggest thing is to prepare her to be like, hey, it's going to blow. Like, it is going to suck out there. And you can't be putting on your little pissy pants and telling everybody, like, yeah, that you going into it, that it's not going to be as hard because you were as awesome as you think you were in high school. So just don't go into it thinking you're hot shit, because you won't make it. Just, I mean, and that's just for Ranger school, because it's, you know, it's one of the better NCOESs, and it's, yeah, I think tactical awareness is extremely important for any soldier. So I think, you know, women in Ranger school is fine. As far as regiment, if you want to go into that, I'll go in that.
Okay, since we're there.
Okay, I was like, I'm waiting for it. So Ranger school, yeah, go for it if you're a chick. As far as regiment goes, it's not so much the physical aspect of it. I mean, you know, like you have Rangers in there that made it through that are like hot garbage. You know what I mean? Like they just like how are you here? Yeah, and you know, and it happens, but I think women need to realize or put aside more so is this whole feminist movement thing, like, oh, equal rights and, you know, like I can do what he can do and whatnot. Like I understand that, but the thing is like, just from my personal experience of deploying with regiment, it is not about how high a horse you're on. Like you, personality-wise, you have to fit. You can't be going in there thinking, you know, like, I made it through Ranger school and I made it through the Ranger selection, and now I'm here, or RASP or whatever it is now, and now I'm here, and, you know, I'm an officer and you have to listen to me. It's like, no, lady. Like, you cannot go in there as a brand new LT thinking that just because you have a degree and you graduated from 2 courses that you're going to run this platoon of, you know, men who have been doing this for so long. I think, like, and you know, it is opening. Like, women are going to be going through RAST and possibly taking positions in regiment, which, you know, I don't completely agree with it. One, because, well, first and foremost, it is not the time right now to be doing a political experiment, especially with ISIS out there. Like, we do not need to be, you know, putting people in these positions that haven't been to war, that haven't, you know, don't know the mission set or the mindset or how to actually lead. You know, the leadership in regiment is completely different than the leadership outside in the regular army. It's just a different, you guys are a different species. It's a different breed. And it's, for me, it's not, it's costly. And I think the majority, like the way that it's portrayed to women, as I'm seeing it, is you're a woman, like, I'm woman, hear me roar type of thing. Like, go out there and you can do these things because it's for equality, which you know, yeah, I understand that. But, you know, there's baby steps that need to be taken. I mean, for fuck's sake, we've only had 2 women that graduated from Ranger school. Or 3, I'm sorry, 3. And that's awesome. Like, you go, girls. But to completely jump in now to let girls, like, push people through to go into regiment, like, what was it? It's not even a year after the fact, and they're already like, yeah, they passed, so let's put them in regiment. Like, that's That's bogus to me. That's completely bogus to me. It's like you're kicking out all your GWOT guys, you have all of the experience that you want to give the boot because they know what's going on, and you don't like what they have to say. And this is higher ups. And two, you're gonna have to change. And see, I don't even know, for maturity reasons alone, you have a 19-year-old girl that gets accepted to get in regiment. Oh my God, if I were 19 years old going into regiment, could you imagine, if it was your daughter? Holy shit. No, you can't, the military is so pussified now, and excuse me, but it is because you can't create the mentality of the guys that, jumped in back in 03, or when was it, 2001 before that, or 2001 and then in Afghanistan in 03. So it's such a different mindset, and I think that the Army, I understand for political reasons and whatnot, they want to push this forward, and it's going to happen. Absolutely, it's eventually going to happen, but I think the timing is wrong, and you need to make sure that you have the quality personnel and you're not just doing it for numbers, and I think that's what's going to happen, because the way that I could see a recruiting poster for women to go to regiment is you're awesome, you're fit, you whatever the reason of going, someone that's going to boost them up so much to the point that they're going to get in regiment, that they're going to be on such cloud nine. But what happens when they actually fail? And you know how it is with those guys that are in there, it's hard to admit failure. And I pray to God, or what God, whoever's God, that these individuals don't put their pride, don't take the easy way out by calling an EO complaint or rape or sexual assault just because they can't hang. You know what I mean? I don't know if that makes sense to you, but...
Well, it does. When you were talking about humility, the thing about Ranger Battalion versus, Special Forces or other groups is every day you have to earn your keep. So you have to wake up on Saturday and have to be able to perform the same as you did on Tuesday. If not, then you're RFS'd. So there's not that sense of entitlement or I did X, Y, and Z to get here, and so now I'm good. But every day you're expected to perform to standard and then above standard, because that is the standard.
Absolutely, yeah.
And, with failure in regiment, the majority of guys I'd met there had never failed. They were their high school wrestling team captains. They were the football captains. They were just people that they failed at something, but then they kept trying until they succeeded and they achieved that. And so everybody in regiment was the pinnacle of the best. And I think that's what it should come down to, as far as, do we let her go to this school or do we let her into this? Whatever's going to put the best warfighter on the ground. And if it is a political, social experiment, and that's the agenda behind it, then that's wrong. The agenda should be focused on putting the best rifles on the ground.
And that's the thing. And I know with the whole physical aspect of it, a lot of people say oh, can some 5-foot girl carry 300-pound guy in kit? And instead of just, like I said, jumping head first into allowing them into regiment, they need to test this. They need to test it. They need to get girls that are interested in doing this and actually put them through what it would be like to spend a year in regiment, deploying every 4 months, and what happens to, when it comes to the physical aspect, even more so fertility or stress or whatnot, what actually happens to a woman's body in comparisons to a man's. We can't, everybody can say, yeah, they deserve it, or I or we or whoever deserves to go in, but, look at longevity-wise, how many, if you do have the quality personnel to go in, and however they're built, the dynamics of it actually makes it through, and it's sustainable, then yeah, I think it's a good idea, and not make it so much about how, what if you have an X or Y chromosome, you know what I mean? I really, just to look out for women alone, because I mean, I've read a bunch of different studies about how, being in kit so long, it can, mess with a woman's skeletal structure, or, we have to take certain vitamins because of this. I mean, we are different, and we are. And I think instead of just jumping head first, have the proof, to say, like, yeah, they deserve to be there. But in other aspects too, in regards to, like, when it comes to, like, facilities, or like living quarters or whatnot, like, that's a mute point, because you have your intel chicks and your like CSCs or whatnot, like that is so small, and especially like being out in the field, or if you're out doing whatever, like, if you make it through regiment, or make it into regiment, like, you can show that you're like a grown ass woman that can take care of her cleanliness and herself when it comes to that. So, like, in regards to, like, being curious about how many tampons I need to take out there, you guys don't care. You know what I mean? Like, you really don't. Like, and you're not gonna. I know that's like an issue with some people who are against it when it comes to, like, personal hygiene, but if you get it there, hopefully you know how to clean yourself appropriately. But like, just, they really need to look at, do kind of, if you're going to do a social experiment, do a social experiment to where you're not sending these guys into battle. You know what I mean? And you're not putting them into, like you said, your rifle team leader or a platoon sergeant or a PL. Like, don't just put them in there, because you really don't know how the dominoes are going to fall in regards to how people are going to react to them, or just the platoons are going to react to them. I think the older guys are going to, if they're anything like they were with, like, the squad leaders, the platoon sergeant, PL, were with the CSCs, then that is setting women up for success in there. But you do, and I had my fair share of, like, younger guys that don't really know, but all they see is just some chick there that you shouldn't be here. I mean, that's an uphill battle too. So I just wish that whoever's in charge of this big, mess would take a step back and look at, like, the guys that are in there, and potentially the women that may be in there, and the damage or success that's going to come from it. So, I mean, we'll see. We'll see. I mean, if my daughters decided that they wanted to, go be a ranger, I mean, thank God they're babies. Like, they're tiny right now. So hopefully all this shit will be, like, flattened out, and all the, just the mess will be cleaned up by the time that they decide that they want to do that. But, yeah, you can't go into regiment thinking that you're better. You can't, like you said, you just can't go in there, and that's why I wish women would take a step back and be like, okay, I want to do this because I want to be a part of the team. I want to do this because I will come to love these guys. You know what I mean? Like, I got into my fair share of, like, pissing contests with some of the guys over there, but you still, like your family, you know what I mean? Your family, and
I tell people,
the love I have for them. Yeah.
I tell people all the time, like, deployments and being around the guys, like, almost in a way shaped the way that I view love. And I was having this conversation with somebody the other night, like, I define love as the ability for me to instantaneously say, I die for you right now.
Exactly.
Like, I've had plenty of relationships in the past. Oh, I love you. Like, not like I loved, everybody I deployed with.
It's the truth.
We could be, a fist fight right after chow, and then get a TST, and, I'm low, he's high. Like, every time.
And I'm envious. Like, I'm so envious of it, because we did, like, we had our, for a degree, we had our separation, just as even as CSTs, like, the perception is reality, and you have to keep your distance to a degree. But just seeing the guys in there together, like, and the joking and the harassment, like, you have to be able to handle that. But, like, I would hate to see this different dynamic go in there and not understand the culture and completely ruin it. You know what I mean? Because that's what you guys know. And like I feel like I'm a mom. Like I'm like, oh, you know, like I just want you guys to have, you know, it's just because I've seen it and I see the love and I'm so passionate just about, you know, the Rangers and well, just pretty much just Rangers. Like, and I'm partial to the third bat, but you guys just, it's just so, you have to be there to experience it, just to experience the awkward kind of love that's there, you know. And it's so, like, I worry all the time. Like, anytime, like, Kyle comes home and he talks about one of his, you know, I ask about his buddies or ask about the guys that we deploy with, and it's in a, you know, and I'm sure, you know, he's just kind of there, you know, but I'm like, I need to know, you know, like, I need to know that everybody's okay and that, you know, everybody's taken care of and how things are going when they're deployed. Like, I still keep tabs, like, you know, on what's going on over there, because it's just, I guess, like, I have family back in Nevada, but it's not like this. Like, it's not like, you don't find that. You never find that anywhere. And, you know, like, when I was talking about this to Kyle, I mean, I'm like, this is important. Like, this is a family. Like, we have each other's backs and we're there for each other. And it's just so much more than having to call each other, like, on Christmas. You know what I mean? Like, we know each other's, like, deepest, darkest secrets, and we don't judge each other. And I just don't, like I said, like, I just don't want that to change because the times are changing. And I
want to see that more on a grand scale with the veteran community as a whole. Like, I feel like that's one of the biggest disconnects with people that leave services. They left their family, essentially, and you're having to start this new life all alone. So I feel like between Ranger Battalion, veterans, like, as that spreads almost to like a cultural movement of people that are willing to give the shirts off their back for a random stranger, do contacts, selfless service, and get those traits back into America. Like, I think just fixing ourselves from the inside out, basically.
I agree. I think it's, like, especially with one of the biggest difficulties, even for me, you know, was the transition out. And because you feel alone and you feel, like, chaotic. Like, everything is just, like, when I got back from Afghanistan, okay, so backtrack, when I got back from Iraq, well, when I was in Iraq, like, I enjoyed the work that I did, and, you know, it was, I volunteered to go on that deployment. I had just graduated high school, and I was like, they're like, we need some volunteers because they need help over there. And I was like, you know, and I had scholarships and I was going to college and everything, but I felt like they need me over there, you know, like, I signed up, they need me over there. So I go over there and I do my job and whatnot. And this happens, but, so when I was over there, I was raped twice by another service member. And this comes back all the way to doing the CSC thing. So when I got back, like, at that time, this is back in 2007, sexual assault was hush. There wasn't, you don't talk about it. So I started going through this spiral of, like, depression and anxiety and just losing my goddamn mind. Like, I'm like, what? I felt like I was a giant toddler. I was like, why am I just so, what is going on in my brain? And going to the VA and them not even knowing how to handle because they're like, two physicians that I talked to said that it needed to happen, which completely fucked my life up. Yeah, not long story, but said that it was like it was a comfort thing, and I should have just, you know, went along with it. Yeah, and so and that, like, when I got back, I was 19 years old. So it was, for me, it was like, I have a doctor in front of me telling me that it needed to happen. So the mind fuck for me was like that, and I had my aha moment probably about 6 years after the fact. But anyway, going through the VA system and them not even knowing how to help or what I needed. They just told me it was like it was an adjustment thing. That I was having an adjustment issue from coming back from combat, because I was I was a driver. I was in combat. It's like, no, I don't have, the issues with, what was going on over there. What I have issues with was that I was violated, like, to the worst of extremes. You know what I mean? So now, coming forward, back to like 6 or 7 years after the fact, where mental health was actually a lot better. They do consider sexual assault, rape, any sort of, in that criteria, MST trauma, as PTSD, which inside it is, So therapy-wise, and it's still a work in progress, just from my own personal experience, because every individual is different. But for me, and this is why I love Regiment and the guys so much, because I dealt with the craziness of coming back and losing myself and just not having my family, you know what I mean? Like, nobody understood, like, and I was angry and I was just a mess. And when things started to calm down and I got the whole cultural support email saying, like, hey, you want to go try and do this? Like, I was afraid. Like, I was like, I'm not so much nervous about going out there and being able to do the job, because I can fake it. Like, I can go out there and do the job and do it right. But my biggest secure is, like, can I put the uniform back on and be surrounded by these high testosterone? Like, I had to prove to myself, like, I can put myself in a situation and not fall victim again. And I'll tell you, like, I made it through selection, made it through all that, got overseas as a CST, completely terrified of what was put in my head on the type of people that, Rangers are, and then getting there and then being completely surrounded by love and acceptance and just, like, home. Like, I had my clarity, you know what I mean? And I can tell people, like, I can tell you, like, yeah, I was raped in Iraq by another service member, and it happened. But I can tell you that, and I couldn't do that before, and I couldn't come to grips with it before. But what embodied me to tell you that and to come forward and be, like, a stronger person is because who my family is. And my family was Regiment, you know what I mean? Like, you guys saved my life. Like, I was a fucking mess before, and it just, like, I get, like, really upset about it, because there's so many people out there that don't know this love, you know what I mean? And, like, your guys' is, like, your purpose of, like, how you said, like, making this movement to go out and just have veterans go out and just spread this, our love. And we're not scary people, and we're not crazy, you know what I mean? Like, we're good people, and we want to help. And that's, like, my biggest thing is, like, even after I got out, like, I'm like, I need to do something. Like, I feel selfish not telling, like, another rape victim or another woman that's in the service or whomever, like, hey, it's okay, and I'm here, and I understand, and you don't need to go to the VA and put on a bunch of mood stabilizers or, do sort of therapy that's going to just fuck with your head even more. Like, there's a community that's out there that loves you, and it's so cheesy, and it sounds so gay, and but I just, like, whenever I'm with, like, just you guys, or, like, who, like, just the guy, you know who it is. It's not even like you guys. Like, this is the first time I've ever met you, and I know, like, I can just tell, you know what I mean? Like, it's like, like, you got my back, and I have your back, and you don't, like, a lot of women and our service, like, veterans, or even men, like, they just don't know, so they come back, and they are blowing their brains out, you know what I mean? Because they don't know, and like, their families don't know, and they don't understand what's going on. And I think that, like, therapeutically going out there, it makes it it's so healing, and it's helpful. And I don't know. Like,
so much in that. Oh,
sorry, I didn't mean to, like, drop that bomb on you. And I just, like, I do that all the time. Like, when people, like, because I'm involved in other organizations and whatnot, and I always tell them, like, okay, I'm going to tell you this. don't feel bad for me. I'm at a good point in my life, like that I can tell you this, you know. And there's so many people that have to hide behind it. So it's just, sorry, I didn't mean to lay that bomb on you, but
no, you're
important.
fine. I mean, I'm just kind of stuck on the courage that it takes. You know, after that event happened, with all the notions that people were putting in your head about the stigma of special operations and regiment, and then still going for that despite, you know, the physical aspect of it, the mental aspect, and then throwing in that, like, that courage, like, that's powerful to me.
It was, and a lot of people don't understand, you know. It's like, oh, you just went there because it's like the cool guy thing, you know? And I'm like, no, like, I went there because I needed closure. I went there because I needed to know that that incident, 10, or what, it was in 2007, does not define who I am. It's not who I am. Who I am is a woman that's going to go out with these friggin' badasses, you know, that is going to contribute. Like, I'm contributing to this mission, and I want the success that they want too, and I want us all to come home alive. And, you know, when Ashley died, like, that was like a, you know, death, it's still, like, I feel like I owe it to her and her family to keep pushing forward and making sure that, like, she never is forgotten, and that I need to be as strong for her and her family. And just, you know, it's just so much more than just me just being like, okay, I did my service and now that's it, you know. Like, I just can't do that. And like, I mean, if there was a hell, then I would be going to it if I did that. So I'm serious, like, when I say it. And like, doing the CSC mission completely saved my life. Like, I did it not so much for, like, I didn't do it because it was cool. I did it because I needed it for, like, to solidify my life, you know. And I didn't do that, though. It was you guys. Like, it was the culture and the guys. And it's like, I want other people to have that. Like, they deserve it. They don't need to come home and go through the shit that I went through, the thought of killing myself or trying to kill myself. You know what I mean? Like, you don't need to do that. Like, there's someone out there that cares, that knows. And we do. We need to push this movement out there. And I think it's just so important. And it's not so much about, you know, like, media or getting your face out there. It's actually helping, you know. And it's important. So,
well, for me, going to the VA, I didn't start doing that until recently. But coming back, there was that disconnect. All my brothers were still deploying, getting ready for their next mission, and I'm sitting at home relaxing. And it's just been from connecting with people on the podcast, connecting with my buddy Paul and James. Like, that's where I found the most therapy. It's not sitting down with a doctor explaining what my transition issue is, why I want to Ranger smash everything. It's
why you're angry all the time. Yep.
And so even my darkest moments, you know, when it was the stack of beer bottles and whiskey bottles, empty room, like, I got out of that because my brothers put their hands on me and said, hey, come over here, hang out with us, we got you.
Yeah. And see, I didn't have that. Like, when I got home, I was just, I mean, and that's why, and I really, like, it took 10 years out of my life. Well, it took up to doing the CSC thing that I had that. And no one should have to waste 8 to 10 years of their life trying to find hope, you know, or to have somebody, like you said, like your Ranger brothers come up and get you out of there. And it's, you know, it's, it makes me, it bothers me, like, knowing that there's people out there that just are getting ready to take their lives and they don't need to. You know, there's light at the end of the tunnel. But the best thing is that there's people out there like you guys and like me and like people that want to go out there and like help them get out, you know. And it just, I'm just your whole movement and everything is just, it's so, I mean, I am all over the place anyway, still, like, with my girls and everything. So, like, to hear, like, I heard from James and I heard from Paul, like, this thing that you guys are doing, it's just awesome, you know. And like, I'm really, like, I'm so glad that you had me, you know, come and talk with you, because it's so amazing. Yeah.
Well, it's just, I don't know. I saw an article recently, and I haven't talked to many people about it, but it was talking about how the number 22 is a little too high, and that PTSD There's too many people that are claiming it that don't really have it. I'm kind of stuck on that because I can't say what one person went through versus what I went through. Maybe they came home and their wife left them and they have no money, or maybe they have no family. Maybe they didn't handle the deployment as well as I did. So I can't say what each person's PTSD experiences are. And then I saw somewhere somebody wrote about how companies are making themselves out of this 22 stigma, and once the war goes away, they'll have nothing left. It's like, for me, I feel like as long as there is a problem, even at a small level, it still needs to get handled. And I just know, for me personally, doing this podcast and connecting with more veterans, this has been therapeutic for me as well as for the people that I connect with.
Yeah, no, I agree. And I think the VA, especially with the whole PTSD thing, is a quick cover-up for any sort of emotional reaction. And it's not like, if you look at the diagnosis of PTSD, it's, like the anger and hold on just a second. My computer just did something funny. Okay. The anger and like the
hypervigilance.
Yeah, and like the bad dreams and the night sweats and the just the whole thing. Like, yeah, there's a specific diagnosis, but if you got a guy that like comes in and normally they're gonna put you through therapy, they want to put you on mood stabilizers, medication, whatever, which in itself is not as helpful, but that's not what they need. It's okay that a vet goes in there and he's pissed. You know what I mean? It's okay that he's angry and that he's sometimes violent. It doesn't mean that he has post-traumatic stress disorder. You know what I mean? And that's the problem, is like the VA is just so quick to slap on that label, and it's and they are, like you said, there are people that legitimately have that. You know what I mean? But there are guys out there that just are mad and they need to have an outlet. And I wish that the VA, because that's like all they see is like Veterans Affairs. Like, okay, so that's where I have to go. Like, oh, yes, if you feel like that's where you need to go, but be prepared to be just completely stigmatized by you being a veteran. That's it, And like for me, like what's funny is when I went in, I was doing a PTSD evaluation, and mine so much was, it was not about seeing dead people. Like, yeah, when I was Rangers, yes, I did see it, and yes, I did see them shoot people, and yes, I don't have issues with that. What I have issues is with the other traumatic event that happened in my life, and it's like they're like, oh, but you did see dead people out there. I'm like, okay, if I tell you that I'm okay with it, am I a sociopath? Like, well, you can't. There's no middle ground. So, just the uneducation at the VA is really, it's unfortunate, because it's not. Like I had, and using myself as an example again, like I went in, they're saying that this exposure therapy is supposed to be really great for PTSD. You have your therapist, exposure therapy. They want you to relive the incident so that you're immune to it. And, in some incidences it might be okay, you know what I mean? But he was like telling me, like, okay, you're going to come in here Wednesday, you're going to explain the entire incident. So I have to go from that day up until, or from the day the rape happened, how it happened, details, like grueling details. And then he wants me to come home, in their video, or they're recording it, come home and listen to this every single day up until my next appointment of the following Wednesday, so that I can become immune to it. And excuse my language, but it's like, listen, motherfucker, like, I know what happened. Like, I got it. Like, you don't have to tell me that I need to become immune to it. What I need to know is, how do I not be pissed? And how do I not hate everybody in the entire world? And how do I not fear men? You know what I mean? Like, that was my biggest thing. And that's a big reason why I did the CST thing too, because I had to force myself to be in that social environment. So they're shoving this shit down these veterans, like wanting them to do this exposure therapy. Like, you got it. Like, you know what I mean? Like, whatever's bothering you, like, that, okay, I got that. Like, I understand that happened, but I need your help on how to move forward. And it doesn't have to be like going in there and telling your same exact every gripping detail over and over again. It might just be like, I just need to shoot the shit with some guys, or, let's share some stories with each other, or going out and helping people, or, just come and check on me every once in a while. Not, like that for me was just like it. I did it for about 2 months, and this is very VA like, personality of the VA. I did it for 2 months and completely fucked my life up. Like, I was a mess, and because I was just reliving this over and over again. And then I stopped going to therapy, and I went back, and my therapist, and he's a civilian contractor through VA. He's like, if you're not going to put the work in, Kat, like, this isn't going to happen. And, I'm only I'm helping you because your primary care doctor said that that you needed help, assistance. And all I'm thinking of was like, listen, guy, like, the only reason you have a fucking job is because veterans need help. You know what I mean? Like, don't tell me that you're doing me a favor. And needless to say, I have not gone back, and that guy can kiss my ass. But the most therapeutic thing for me is just, like, I accept what happened, and I need to find my healthy balance of going out and doing good for other people, because that's therapeutic for me, like you said, like talking it out and just sharing stories with veterans. And I think that needs to happen more, and we don't need to put such a label on ourselves, and society doesn't need to either. Like, yeah, we did those things, we come to grips with them. If we haven't, then the resources, as marginalized as they are out there, but like, we're here for each other. And I just think it's really important. And don't do exposure therapy if you don't have to, because it's terrible. So, but can you hear me?
Oh,
I can hear you at all.
Can you hear me?
Yeah.
You were saying earlier you were involved in a couple different organizations. Can you talk a little bit about that?
Yeah. So right now I'm running for the Miss Veteran America competition. That was created because Final Salute Inc. Is a nonprofit organization that provides housing for women and their children, veterans. So they created this competition for women veterans to. It's pretty much the lead fundraiser and advertising platform for Final Salute Inc. And raising funds for women vets or whatever. So the contestants we have to do a charity for Final Salute Inc. where all the donations go directly to women veterans. And then they have 2 regionals, and then the finals in Las Vegas, where it's for the, I guess, women veteran community, just like raising awareness for women veterans that are homeless. But so right now I'm campaigning or trying to do that right now. I don't really know how. This is therapy for me also, because I'm not the type of person to go out there and do the whole. It's not a pageant, okay? That's what I keep telling us. It's not a pageant, but it has some things that are like a pageant in it. But it's good for just kind of getting in the community and doing a little bit more research about what issues that are out there. So I'm pretty passionate about it, just for the fact that it's out there. Like, we're helping our veterans get off the streets, and like, I cannot imagine like myself or my daughters being on the streets. You know what I mean? But just the fact that this organization is out there to help is just a really good thing. So, yeah. So right now I'm just starting that and kind of looking into other things right now. But that's like that and school and my family. It's the main thing. So
it should be. That's awesome.
Yeah.
That's been like the cool part for doing the podcast, is getting to know more organizations. Like, started to get more familiar with the Darby Project and looking at, like, what do they actually put their donations towards. And I mean, to think about all the slew of issues that veterans go through, whether it's, behind on bills as they're transitioning to a new job, and maybe they had to get their VA appointment. Well, I went to the VA here in Syracuse. They're open from 9 to 3, Monday through Friday. Like, when is the time that most people go to their jobs?
Yeah,
It's
like
eight to 5 or 9 to 5. So when would you have time to go to your counseling to transition? Like, it almost seems like the system's set up against you once you get out.
Right.
You know?
That's
you spent
because the people there are from 9 to 5, so they don't, or 8-3 or whatnot.
It's like you spent the last 4 years when everybody else was in college. You were fighting war, and now you come out. Maybe a degree maybe. It's just like there's so many factors that you feel like are just against you, but as you get to know more organizations and getting involved with them, seeing what else is out there to support you.
Yeah, and just with so with CSC2, Ashley's War was written about our experience, and just, Ashley being the first woman that had died on the battlefield among special operations or with the Ranger Regiment. And especially with all these books and with everything coming out, it's really good for how everything is moving forward, especially for women. But I'm not sure if you've read it or even if your viewers, because you look at it, it's like, oh, these girls, they had their piece, they wrote a book, but it's so insightful to how the program evolved and what special operations is, and it highlights not only Ashley's death, but Christopher Horns and Christopher Domay that went out there and died too, and how important you guys are. And if you look at, I know we got a lot of backlash when it comes to you're just going out there and you're just writing about you guys, and it's like if you read the book, like, it just shows how important the Rangers were to us, and how just the community, and how we got there, and how this experience completely changed our lives. And so being a part of that and being featured in that was really great. But and just to keep Ashley's memory alive is just, I'm just glad that it's out there still. And I think that everybody's story, regardless of who they are, it needs to be told, whether it's in a book or just to each other. And so that being involved in that it was hard at first because I was really unsure about the whole thing, but after the fact, and now that the book's out and how many people it's impacted, has been really great. So hopefully that will be a more positive note for getting I guess you could say, the persona of what Regiment is, because I know there's a bunch of other, chest thumping books out there with other organizations that of, but it's just being involved in that is really great too. And I want to push something more, just to get her story and the guys that have passed their story out, because it's important. You've lost your buddies too, and it just you don't want them to be forgotten, and it is so easy for people to forget, and that's not right. So any chance that I get the opportunity to do something like I was in People magazine, I did an article on that, which was it was a good thing. I am a hermit, so when it comes to getting out there and putting my face out there, I'm just I don't know if I should do this, or I'm questioning it. But the support is good, and you're out there and you're helping somebody. So being involved, any opportunity I get to do an interview, I went to New York City back in September. I got contacted by this organization out in London called the Female Lead, and they're doing a book. It's like a textbook on 50 inspirational women, and they asked me to be involved in it. And the book is going to be distributed in colleges and universities, high schools all over the world. So it's this is for young girls to look up to, not so much what's on the media, but people that have actually done great things. So that was a real privilege. I was really humbled to do that, and just to highlight what what the mission was, but who I worked with and how important these people are. So, and, you know, like any opportunity like this is just incredible. Like, I'm so honored to be, you know, on here with you talking about this stuff, because it is. I'm so passionate about it, and I just, like I love Regiment so much, you know, like you guys have just, like, you're just like brothers, and you've completely, like, even though we're not blood, we're there for each other. So, little baby steps. Can't hear you.
I feel like my family, even between veterans I've met, brothers from Ranger Battalion, and I feel like that sense of family is almost different from what I have with my actual family. Just the notion of people that no matter what, I mean, you go into that room, you're not afraid because you know there's going to be rifles behind you, and there's people that are willing to drag you out. Yeah, it's hard to compare that to every other experience I have now, whether it's people I meet or relationships. It's like that high pinnacle of living. I mean, being around constant, you know, the best of the best, and that sense of family compared to everything else. It's like night and
And you
day.
don't have to worry about, like, whether or not they have your back or not. You know, it's just a given thing. So, oh no, my computer said it's restarting. Can you see me?
Yep, I can